I'm Adam, and I'm talking to Butch and Shirley from Garbage. How's it going, guys?
Good, Adam. How are you?
Good, thank you. So it's been how many years is it that Garbage was on hiatus? I think that's how you put it.
We took a 7-year break, and it was very necessary. We did 4 albums and 4 long tours, and I don't think we realized, but in the middle of Bleed Like Me, we got very burned out. And so when we took a break at the end of that tour, I think we kind of thought it would be 2 years, and it stretched into 7 years because everybody needed to reclaim their own lives.
Well, you got involved in this and that. Surely you were working on solo material. And Butch, you produced a couple of fairly under-the-radar sort of albums, like Green Day and Foo Fighters. A couple people heard those, yeah. What led to the reformation, though?
I think we kind of got inspired by a couple things. One, this is kind of an important thing. A friend of ours, a couple lost their son to cancer, and it's a horrible tragedy. And Shirley and I wrote a song for a tribute album to raise money for children's cancer. And we went to the funeral, and Shirley sang at the funeral, and I think we realized how important music is in our lives, and that we had unfinished business to a certain extent. Wouldn't you agree? It was kind of a profound moment, and literally I think the day or two after that, Shirley called Duke and Steve, and we were maybe a couple weeks later we were in the studio recording.
Did you miss Garbage when you were on hiatus?
I missed you.
I missed you too, baby.
Well, Shirley and I live in Los Angeles. Duke still lives in Madison, and Steve lives in Colorado, but we still, we're friends. We keep in contact, but we really hadn't done any playing together for almost 7 years by the time we got in the studio.
What was it like when you got back? Did you have to take some time to get used to working with each other again?
No, we sort of fell straight into it, actually, to be honest. I think we were all happy to see one another, and we just started drinking, actually, and laughing, and we played together, and it was instantaneous, really.
Did you decide right away that you were going to do a full length?
Initially, we just went in to record some songs. I think in a way that was liberating because we were out of a label deal. We were between management. No one really even knew we went in to start recording, so there was no pressure. And we didn't even talk about an album or a tour or anything. We said, let's just see if we can write a couple songs and see where that takes us. And I think just being so loose like that, it really opened up the well, and the songs kind of started pouring into us, pouring out of us and into our laps.
And all 4 of you produced it. Was that just natural?
You
Given
mean
that you were
in terms
working
of
on your own?
In production, yeah. I mean, we've always co-produced the albums because we're all really opinionated, all 4 of us, and that's all a producer is someone who has an opinion.
Oh, okay. And what's funny is when Garbage came out, I remember a lot of writers, a lot of people described the band as a singer and 3 producers. That's not really true, though, is it?
That's not true. No, we're.
If only, right?
No, I want you to sing this and do it exactly as I tell you.
Surely you don't strike me as somebody who just waits to be told what to do.
No, and to be honest, I think when the boys went looking for a singer, I think despite themselves, they knew they needed someone who was as opinionated as they are for the band to work as a whole. So, I am opinionated, it's true.
The new album, a lot of people are saying that it reminds them of your first album, which I can sort of hear, but to me, there's something more abstract about the songs, just kind of, and the atmospheres even too, it's less defined, in my opinion. How do you see it compared to your past works?
I mean, I think Not Your Kind of People sounds like our first record in the sense of the feel and the vibe, not really engineering-wise. I mean, to me it sounds like 2012 from a sonic standpoint, but there's a sort of a roughness or a playfulness. It's hard to define, but I can't articulate it, but there's this energy thing there that we caught in this record that we also caught in our first record. And again, I think a lot of that is due to that there was no pressure and there was a lot of experimentation in the studio. So there's a lot of first takes, a lot of we were less fussy. We can get kind of meticulous in the studio, and we were not that meticulous in when we started recording the parts on this record.
Were you thinking at all about singles, or were you just making what you wanted to make?
I don't think we've ever thought about singles. I mean, we want to make records, and I think we feel in some ways that music's become a little I don't know. I think it's problematic for music to be sort of judged in single terms. So yeah, we just go about making a record, and then when we finish, then the conversations begin about, well, how are we going to lead off this record? You have to pick a single just because otherwise it becomes impossible for people to get their heads around it. But we're about, old school, long playing records.
Right. And Shirley, getting back to the last question, sort of, was there anything lyrically that you were trying to communicate overall, or was it just song by song?
Well, I mean, I have said before, to me the record's like a requiem in a funny way, because I think a lot of things happen to us individually and collectively over the course of 7 years, as they do to everybody in everybody's life. It's a long period of time over which you have great highs and problems, and you lose people that you love, and so in a way it was a song. It's a record about sadness, but also when you are up against it in your life, then you're also connected with the greatest joy and sort of hunger for living in a funny way. And so I think that's in the record too. So it's certainly a more uplifting record than we've ever made before, I think.
I can hear that. And Not Your Kind of People, why name the album after that track?
Because it's a great title.
Yeah,
that
actually that song started with a title. It came to me and stuck in a traffic jam in LA, and I emailed or texted Shirley, so I think I have an idea for a title, Not Your Kind of People, and she wrote back, I love it. I think you wrote all the lyrics that night, and the next day the four of us sat in a little semicircle with a couple acoustic guitars and wrote the music in about 30 minutes. The lyrics that Cheryl wrote sort of are a celebration of realizing that it's okay to be different and feel weird, and that you can actually empower yourself once you realize that. And we've always felt like a band of outsiders as a band. We've never really fit into any sort of genre.
Right.
I think a lot of our fans relate to that too, and it just made sense to us. That's a theme that Cheryl's written about in the past, and also the song Beloved Freak, the last song on the album, taps into that too. So I think once we wrote the song, we kind of knew right away that was going to be the cornerstone of the record.
Yeah, I've always thought of Garbage as being weirdos, really, in the best possible way, of course. I mean, from when you came out, you were, out of all the really popular bands, you kind of touched on this and touched on that genre-wise. Do you still feel like outsiders, or do you feel like elder statesmen now?
Well, we
or
definitely
both?
feel like elder statesmen, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in some ways we've taken all the things that we thought weren't good or cool about us or good enough about us, and inverted that idea and just thought, okay, we may not be, the young hipsters, and maybe we are sort of weird and oddballs and a bunch of freaks from the Midwest and Scotland, and instead of feeling negative about that, I think we've inverted the idea of it and sort of just embraced it and seen that all the things that make us different and sort of we feel are sort of possible things that could reject us are actually really great tools for us. It's good to be different. You stand out a mile, and I think that goes for individuals, people, and also bands and music. If you're doing something different, that's fantastic. Who wants to sound like everyone else?
Yeah, and for people with a podium expressing how different they feel, and shows a hell of a lot of people identify with that point of view when you put that out, obviously. Your tour is selling out, I think, everywhere. Were you expecting that?
Not really.
I mean, just what the response from how many fans are still interested. Did you think about that sort of thing?
Honestly, we thought no one would care. We've been gone for 7 years, and we started recording in a bubble. And a couple of months into it, I think we finally got our Facebook page up and running. And almost overnight, there were 300,000 fans, and they were like, "We can't wait to see you play live. We can't wait to hear the record." And it was heartening to know that there's still this sort of loyalty, because in this day and age, I mean, people move on to the new trend or the new band like so fast. Everyone's just ADD, and so it's been really cool. I mean, to have all the shows sell out, and the response we've been getting from our fans has been kind of unreal. It's like this insane love fest when we go on stage. It's a huge adrenaline rush every night. It's really, really cool.
With as long as you were away, not out of music, but Garbage was on hiatus, have you been influenced by anything in between that you've taken to garbage, either that you did or just that you've heard that's come out?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, we all listen to music a lot. For me personally, I sort of, and this sounds really pretentious. I understand how pretentious this is about to sound, but I sort of got obsessed with female fine artists, visual artists, because I was finding it hard to find female figures in music to get inspired by, because it's so much pop music, and I love pop,
right.
But I was looking for something to fire me up, and so I fell in love with sort of all these female surrealists, and that really changed the way I looked at sort of my role as an artist and my relationship to music and how to look at navigating a career as you get older, which is for a woman complicated in this sort of current climate.
As a female musician in a male-dominated still world, do you feel responsibility in a way, like you're speaking for all female artists, or you're speaking for all female fans even?
I don't actually. I feel a responsibility to myself and to be honest about how I view things and what I hope for women, other women, for women who aren't as lucky as me and who aren't as articulate or as forthright as me. So, I feel like women need to speak out more. I feel like when we came out in the 90s, there were so many women, female artists, coming from all different sort of angles of the spectrum, music spectrum, and all of them were getting a chance to be heard in the mainstream. And now I feel like it's only the sort of beautiful, popular pop girls who get any chance to be heard, and that sort of frightens me a little, because I think it's good for society to have a balance and different viewpoints always.
Do you see it as being a challenge for you personally to get some, I would say, kind of weaker journalists out there to not comment on your looks, basically, just in order to make the music, the music strong enough that people should be writing about the music? I phrased that poorly, but I guess what I'm asking is, does it bother you that a lot of writers still do that?
Yeah, it bothers me, but I'm a realist. I understand they're going to do that, and they probably always will.
Right.
I think actually the problem a lot of the time is not just journalists. It's society. It's the media. It's everything. Just how a woman's worth is sort of weighed can be complicated, and a lot of focus is put on female physicality, and that I think is a little frightening and a little reductive for women in general. But try stopping it; it's almost an impossibility.
Yeah, well, you're doing pretty well considering everything. That was
you
the
so
worst
much.
thing I ever said. I just want to go on record saying that. I've been told to wrap it up. So, Butch, thanks so much for coming by.
Right on. Thanks,
Great
Adam.
to you. Shirley, great to
Thank
meet
you so much for the
Thank you.
interview.
You were going somewhere like, how am I going to get myself out of this?